Hello and welcome to the Gamers Table, Independent Edition. It's Friday, and instead of doing a game, today we're actually got a couple of real published designers here. So we're going to ask them some questions, maybe there'll be some stuff that you guys will be interested in, and if not, well, you know, watch another show.
No, don't change the channel, this one's good.
So let's start with, you guys introduce yourselves.
My name's Cormier, and I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I've known Sen since 1992, I think.
Yeah, something like that. I'm
so you
Sen.
came a long way for this interview.
Yes.
Yeah.
For
We spared no expense.
Yeah, they flew him out here.
Put me up in a fancy hotel. Thanks for that, guys.
Yeah. I'm
no
Sen.
budget.
And it's Sen.
Yeah, and I'm Sen. My name is Sen-Foong Lim. I am also a game designer, partner with Jay. I'm from London, Ontario, so I'm much closer, much less ritzy hotel.
So you guys started out doing independent stuff, just the love of gaming, that sort of thing. I assume that's how we all fall into it.
Yeah.
So how did you guys go from that to getting to a publisher?
Well, it's funny, actually. We actually chronicled it all on our website. We have a website called Inspiration From Inspiration to Publication, and we put all the steps, and it ended up being something like 33 steps on how we got our game from our ideas to paper to pitching to a publisher to a retail shelf. Okay, and so we've actually chronicled it all. But as far as
there's the link.
Yeah, there's the link right there. But as far as how we did it, we first started just like, let's just make games with the idea like, yeah, we want to get published, but let's just start making games. And this was a long time ago. This is like 15 years ago or something.
Yeah, when we really started.
Yeah.
When we fake started.
Yeah.
It was more of a thing to do than then there was no end goal in mind in terms of money or publication.
We just like playing games, so let's make a game.
Yeah, we figured we're pretty smart guys. We can do this.
And there's a really good quote, and I'm just going to paraphrase it real quick, from Ira Glass, who says that anybody who likes a medium of any kind of creative medium and then wants to get involved in that creative medium, they do so because they have a high standard of what they appreciate, and they know what they appreciate because they understand that medium. Like, I like games, I like art, I like music for these reasons. And once they start getting involved in and creating their own, they invariably suck at it. And right, the first time you put something together, you're like, oh, I love music, I'm gonna try, and you're like, this sucks. I know what's good, and this is not good. And so, unfortunately, what happens to a lot of people is they give up, and that's what we did. We gave up. We started making a game, and it was kind of cool. I had some neat ideas, but we couldn't. We knew it sucked. We're like, this isn't working. We tried to play test it, didn't work, and we just slowly not talk about it as when we got together, and it just became a thing that was in the past. Yeah. And so that's what Ira Glass says in her quote, and says in the quote says, just keep going. That persistence of failing is what everybody goes through, and it could last weeks, months, years of learning through that, and eventually through all of that, that's all experience, and eventually become good at it. And so we stopped designing.
Yeah, and when my first son was 2, so 8 years ago, Jay had moved out west. He used to live right below me in Hamilton, so there's a mountain in between his apartment and my house, but he lived below me.
Yeah, so we get together all the time.
Basement.
No,
not in the basement. Although we've lived in the same house for many, many years.
in the same basement.
In the same basement, too, yeah. And we traveled out west to visit Jay, and Jay and I figured, let's do something to keep in touch more, to talk on a regular daily basis, because, I'm not going to call Jay and tell him about my day. Something meaningful to spend our time doing, because we're not sports guys, and because of the time difference, we couldn't actually line up our schedules in terms of like even online gaming together. It just rarely happened.
Yeah, because of the 3-hour time difference. Yeah.
Right. So this was our way of doing that, and
let's make games together.
Yeah, and like Jay said, failure led to more failure. But that's the point, is that because we're okay with failing, both of us are pretty robust in our egos. We don't really care when we fail.
Because I think our first game that I published was probably around our 10th-ish game that we designed.
We had another 5 to 7 games in our stable of games, but they weren't really all that stable because they never got picked up. Yeah. So the proof is there that they weren't that great. But they'd been pitched to other publishers, and the first time a game got picked up was about 5 years after we really decided to start. Yeah. So let's see, so 8 years ago, and then maybe 3 to 4 years after we decided to start, then Belfort first got picked up. And that was after we had shown the year before about 4 or 5 games to other publishers who we are still in contact with.
Yeah, so maybe to tell that story about how...
Sure.
Yeah, so we get to a point where we...
These guys are real easy to interview.
Just every once in a while, throw in a word for prompts. Yeah.
Just nod every once in a while in case we have to cut.
Yeah, exactly. So here we are designing some games, and we had a few games that we liked and were pretty cool, whatever. And then we're like, oh, what do we do? Like, what now? What? And we had one contact through a friend that we emailed and pitched a game through, and they said, yeah, send a game. So that was our first, way to get, and we got a game to a publisher, and we're all excited, and ended up rejecting but giving some feedback. We're like, okay. The publisher said he was going to this convention called Gamma. It's in Vegas, and it's meant for retailers. And so the retailers go to this, and all the publishers are there, most of them. And the idea is that the publishers go around, the retailers go around, and the publishers pitch their game. Like, these are going to be great. They're going to be huge sellers. You should get a bunch in your store. That kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I just went. I went there not knowing exactly anything about what to do or anything but at all, because we didn't have any context, and they're just Sen and I knew each other, and we didn't know any other game designers at all. And so we had one idea, which ended up being a really, really awesome idea, was we created a 1-page summary of each of the games we brought. And so we had about 5 or 6 games that we brought to pitch. And it was a really cool little sales pitch promo page. It gave all the information with some pictures of the prototype and all that kind of stuff. And so I'd go there and I'd start walking up to people, and I'd be just randomly cold calling right up to their booth. I'm like, hey, I'm a designer. Are you guys looking at submissions right now? And most of the time, there's a look of unhappiness that
God.
I'm not a retailer wanting to buy boxes and boxes of their games. Yeah. And so that was a little unfortunate. But the ones that were like, yeah, we're looking at stuff. As soon as I brought out those pages, those professional kind of page summaries, they perked up a bit, and they're like, oh, these guys are serious. It's not going to be like another Monopoly clone or something like that. It's like, oh, this is okay. And they actually perked up and were interested. And so the first year I went, I pitched all these games, got some interest, and almost I think every game that we went there with went to a publisher. And we're like, this is great. It was awesome. And they all got rejected.
Which is also awesome.
It was also great.
Not so awesome.
Well, not so awesome as far as like you want it, but it was good in hindsight now, because I can see those games now as a more experienced designer, know that they're not that good compared to what they would be now.
Well, actually, there's one that was pitched then, which got rejected after several years of it being held by GameRight. And
yes, that's right.
So there's a game that was pitched at the very first convention we went to,
yes.
Gamma 2007
it's called like
or something.
Jam Slam.
Yeah, but making jam. And
Quick
GameRight
reaction.
makes
Slamwich.
So we thought, hey, it'd be a good fit for your company.
Yeah.
We do a lot of research actually on the company, what type of games they make, why our games would be good for them, and that's actually quite a key point. That's pro tip number 1, that you need to research the companies who you're pitching to, so you don't give a company that doesn't want anything to do with zombies a game about zombies, right? So
when I was pitching one time to a company, I opened up my thing and I said, I got many games, but I only want to show you this one because I think it fits your company. And the look on that publisher's face was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, it was very appreciative. She goes, so many people just show me 10 different games, and there's war games and kids games, and it's like, it's ridiculous. We don't publish those games. It makes no sense.
Right.
So she was very appreciative that I was
your
paying
time
attention.
Your time as a person at a convention is limited, and it's valuable, and so is theirs. So just give them the straight goods right off. If you have a chance to look at their websites, follow their submission guidelines to a T, and then also look at their catalog, see what they have, see where your game could fit into a niche, and then see also where, hey, maybe they're missing something.
Yeah.
Because there's possibilities that they might be looking for something. Well, this game actually is really super fun. And it's all our adult playtesters love it because there was a little bit of an extra degree of thinkiness that made it really fun to play for adults. But kids, who we suspected this was more marketed at, and we thought that, GameRight makes more kids games, kids just didn't get. It wasn't worth their effort
They were playing it at one level, but the humans were playing it at another
Humans?
level. Humans. Well, kids aren't humans, are they?
No, like that.
That's
No, they're
hilarious.
kind of animals. They're kind
That's
of like
awesome.
little animals. So the
That's funny.
adults were playing it at a different level.
I've been spending all week with his kids, so
They
they're
are
not,
kind of,
they're
they're
not
not
very
humans
human.
at all. So
Monsters. Rugrats.
just this year, we had Jay and I go to a conference called Gathering of Friends, which is Alan Moon's private convention. Alan Moon is the guy who made Ticket to Ride and countless other games, which are all amazing. So we pitched to a lot of publishers at that event, and what happened was like maybe 2 weeks before, we were looking through our back catalog seeing, okay, what games do we have to bring? We don't have much. We don't have much this year. What are we going to bring? I said, oh, what about Jam Slam? And Jay just kind of says, maybe. I said, well, what if we made it a zombie game? Just kind of being stupid.
Because obviously we got to make it more
Zombie
adults.
Slam.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
That's
100%
exactly
what
what
happened.
happened.
We called it Zombie Slam.
But
Right.
because of the failures of us as game designers not really picking our audience right for the mechanic that we had designed, the game as Jam Slam never really picked
Took
up.
off, yeah.
But because of changing the design, just even the theme to zombies, and then we added some more mechanics that fit
Yeah,
with the
it
theme better.
informed the gameplay a bit more and
Yeah.
changed some of the things.
And so the game design emerged from a retheming
Everything, yeah.
to the point where I think 4 or 5 publishers are basically kind of
vying for it.
warring
Yeah, they
with
really
us
want it.
to get that game. So
Wow, that was
we'll see what happens. Right now it's with
Yeah.
publisher A. And
Okay,
we'll go from
so
there.
does
that,
that
that story does not result in let's make more zombie games.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
it really doesn't.
It was a happy accident.
Yeah, in fact, Jay and I had never wanted to make a zombie game. Really, we had kind of gone away from making that ever. It was a complete joke when I said it, but it just fit the game.
It's a quick reaction game, so I don't think there's too many zombie quick reaction games out there.
I hope not.
That doesn't really go with the zombies.
No, you're the zombie.
Yeah, no, you're
Yeah.
running away from them.
You
so
have to be quick.
quick to get away
It
from
sounds
them.
interesting going from making jam to making
It's totally
zombies.
funny. It's so weird.
Well, you
So
smash fruit to make jam, and you smash zombies' heads to kill them.
What's not to
logic? Logic.
So I noticed you guys brought some games. Did you want to mention anything quick about the ones that you have on the table here?
Yes.
Sure.
Start with our awesome
Buy them.
Yeah.
our second awesome game.
So this is actually the first game that got signed, but the second game that got released. The first game that got signed is
Signed is this first game they released.
released. Sorry, yes, is this one train of thought. So they're both by Tasty Minstrel Games, a game company out of America,
Yeah, I don't know where it's supposed to
the great country of America. And Belfort was the sort of labor of love for a couple of years. It's a game that uses worker placement to facilitate area control, area majority control to score. So if you ever hear it referred to as a worker placement game, that's only half of the story.
Yeah.
It uses a lot more than just that.
To give you a flavor of this game, is the motivation behind this is we wanted to make a game that felt like playing Warcraft 2. And from the perspective of sending little guys out, they get wood and stone, they come back and you build buildings, and then those buildings give you more things you can do. That's where it started. And even back when it started, we had enemies. There was bad guys, there was dragons, there was orcs, all these kind of things. Eventually, through playtesting, those things got weeded out. And it became just about the building, because that's what the playtesters said that they enjoyed the most, and they hated a dragon coming in and then destroying things that they just built. So that became something we...
Reminds me of Carcassonne.
yeah.
Stupid dragon. I hate the dragon.
Yeah, so that's that game. And then Train of Thought is a word game. It's a party game where we're trying to get as the conductor, the active player in the game is the conductor, and he's trying to get everybody else to guess a word, but only using 3-word clues. And then the next clue can only be using one of the words that the other people
So I'd
said
say
as their guesses.
I say a 3-word clue, and if you get it, you get it, and that's a point, and I keep going in as many as I can in 2 minutes. But if nobody gets it, then I have to use one of those answers in another 3-word clue to try to chain it together to eventually get you to the point I want to get to.
I like the thought of that.
Yeah. It's a tricky game. I like it. It's almost like a party game for I don't want to say smart people, but it's a party game for like people that want to have a little bit of a brain exercise with it.
And people who like wordplay.
Yeah, wordplay.
Yeah, I like that.
And this
Sounds
is
pretty good.
our third box that came out, but it's just basically it's an expansion. Lovingly named Belfort the Expansion.
The expansion.
Because in this one, you're expanding your properties, your buildings that you're building, and adding extra things to them and giving them players individual scoring paths, which didn't happen in the first game. And in addition to that, players are also getting the use of assistance from the king, in which give them all sorts of cool benefits. And one of the cool things I like about the game and the expansion is that it has a lot of variability in setup. In the base game, there's something called guilds, and it comes with 12, and it only needs 5 in a game. And which guild you use, which you can choose specifically or randomly, and you can choose from 3 types: basic, interactive, or resource. And so you can kind of change the type of game to the kind of play you want. If you want to like a lot of take that and interactive screw you type stuff, you put more interactive guilds in. If you hate that, don't play with those and play with the other ones. So that's one way. This has more guilds, of course, and the assistants. I don't even know can't remember how it comes with 10 or 12 assistants, but you only play with n plus 1. However many players there are plus 1.
So how many games have you designed and had actually published?
So these are the 3 that are literally on store shelves right now.
Okay.
And then we have contracts for 7 or 8 more.
Yeah, about that.
That of games that are. There's one called Acrotiri from Z-Man Games. It's going to be coming out this fall. One called Tortuga from Queen Games. It's coming out any day now.
It's already out in
It's just
Europe.
fulfilling it's out in Europe. It's just fulfilling the Kickstarter already. This town ain't big enough for the 2 to 4 of us. Is a micro game from the same guys that did this. Tasting
Clever
Minstrel.
title, I like that.
It's fun, yeah.
And it's just a micro game.
Just a micro game. Won't be available retail. They did Kickstarter, successful, and it'll be available on the Tasting Minstrel website this fall. Oh, and then But Wait, There's More is a new Kickstarter that's going to be coming up literally any day now. Could be this week or next week.
So keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, for But Wait, There's More. It's a party game in which you're trying to pitch you're trying to pitch products to each other. However, using a lot of infomercial speak. So like you're pitching pants, for example. Everyone's pitching pants this round. Where my turn, when it's turn to pitch, I have all these phrases cards, and I have to add them to it. And it's like, nah, don't you hate pants that only one person can fit in? Well, these pants now have room for 7. And so
That's cool.
yeah, and then at some point during your pitch, you have to say, but wait, there's more. And you have to flip over a random one and add that to your pitch in the middle of your pitch.
Well, I like a variety of styles of games. I like party games, and I like more thought-provoking or games like Belfort or
Strategy.
Strategy type games.
Great.
Like, war games, variety, but I like the thought of these two. I think
Yeah.
the train of thought sounds very interesting to me. Now you said you had a 33 point
Steps?
step.
Yes.
Is there like particular points you can highlight there?
I can't remember the specific steps, but the first, 10 or 12 of them are all mostly game design related. So about game design, and a lot of them focus on we call a little mantra or something like that.
Here, MVP.
MVPs are, I don't know, mantra. I don't know what
Our
we call it.
mantra, our
I don't know what it's called.
our mission.
I don't know. It's how we
Mission
think.
statement?
It's how we
Yeah,
think.
okay.
And it just obviously stands. It's an acronym MVP. We want to be our own MVP. It's motivation. So you need motivation, and we find that through having a partner. That really helps us with motivation. By maybe if one person's a little at a low, the other person can help stay motivated and do things to keep the projects going. So tag teaming helps with motivation.
Yeah, and then what you just said about, I like a variety. V is for not variety, but versatility, which could include variety. And that we make all sorts of games. We make kids games. We have a kids game coming out next year, most likely from R&R. Well, it's not going to be called Pop Goes the Weasel, but that's what originally started out as a kids game.
Yeah, they're changing it.
We have word games. We have family games. We have deeper strategy games. We have light dice games. We have, single deck card games. We have all sorts of games. And that really allows us to basically spread out amongst different publishers, because each different publisher has their own core values of what kind of game they want.
Gets more publishers looking at you
Yeah.
and seeing
Well,
what
when
you're
you-
doing, and so it shows your versatility.
Yeah.
And stuff
When you
like
go to a convention and you so many different publishers, that's where it really pays to be versatile. That you can show these 2 to these 4 publishers, and these 4 to these 3 publishers, and
Yeah.
it really helps. If your goal is to get published, our goal wasn't necessarily let's get Belfort published. It was just like we just want to get published as a game designer, make a game and get published. That was our first goal.
Okay, right now I can feel the throbbing force from the audience right now. They all want to know the same thing. Is this your living now? Do you guys live off designing games, or is
God,
it
no.
still a second job?
It's our
Absolutely.
third job.
Yeah.
So
Okay. And so now the other one that I want to talk about, because again, we got a lot of designers that watch this, and we get a lot of indie stuff to review, and the big thing we find is the game is too long for what it is.
yeah.
How do you guys get to that point? Like, because obviously the published, so they've obviously hit that proper length. How do you guys go about? Do you do anything to get up? Okay, like this is dragging on. We gotta. This game needs to be like 30 minutes or 20 minutes.
Funny.
It's too long. It's going an hour and a half.
Well, our game Tortuga that was pitched to Queen Games and they picked up and it's coming out. It was about a 45-minute game and they wanted to reduce it, and so they just it's an interesting relationship we had with Queen because they just changed things, which is different than working with Tasty Minstrel. We were very collaborative and working back and forth and coming up with ideas. So when it came out, it was like, oh, there's some new rules. And basically, fortunately, we agree with the rules, which is cool. But it was without explaining the rules of the game, instead of taking an action to get a treasure, every single round, everybody gets one treasure. And that helps motivate the game and speeds it up quite a bit.
Yeah,
So I'm
so
like, okay, I can see that.
I think one of the things that you can do to speed up a game, or one of the many things, there's a lot of things you can do, is really just focus on, keeping everybody as engaged as possible and doing what the game supports or supporting what the game does well instead of stalling it. So, for example, in a game that has a lot of counters, like counter spells and things like that, in a magic style game, what's the purpose of those if it just drags out the game? The game needs to end at a certain point. Oftentimes Jay and I will look at a game and say, I'd rather play that game twice at 15 minutes than once at 25.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than like taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back all the time, and it's just like I'm not getting anywhere.
Right, and so progress, exactly, is
progress.
really important. So make sure that your games have that overwhelming sense that I'm getting somewhere, not that I'm stagnating, not that I'm passing turns. At every turn that I have, I'm doing something active to progress my game towards whatever the end desired outcome is, really, right? So there's kind of an investment when you spend time to learn the game, you spend money to buy the game, you spend the effort to collect the 4 people that you need to play the game and get the table ready, set up the game for 15 minutes, and teach them for another 15 minutes for the first time you're playing the game. That the fun or the experience or the amount of engagement you have with that game has to be worth the amount of all that effort combined. And if it's not, the game is too long, or some other parts of it are too heavy in whatever regard it is. So you need to really play test through that and balance it out. And also check your ego at the door, because you may like games one way, but if the majority of people are saying it's too long, you kind of have to listen to the majority and try to trim that down.
So how do you guys play test your games? Who do you play test with? Or
These guys over here.
All sorts. Obviously,
everybody in the background over here?
Yeah.
well, you start with the solo, so you do your own solo play test. That's usually, we do that mostly at alpha phase, where it's just a little card stock and cards with markers on them and stuff like that, just to figure out if the mechanic is working. Our goal is really to get as fast as possible, get it to some sort of form we can play it. No matter, even if it's just a portion of the game, and we just know, well, we want something in this area. Let's just make some cards up real quick and just shade them out. Let's try it out.
Get something fleshed out.
Really quick. So many people we found, other designers, they work on all the math and all the balance and all the art and the card and everything before trying anything. And they print it out. All cards look down. They even go to get it done by game crafters, get it all printed nice. It's the first time they're playtesting it, but it works mathematically as far as things are balanced. But you have no idea where the fun is until you start playing it.
Yes.
I'm sure substance counts over.
I'm totally the same way when I've designed games and taken them with these guys and everything. Because these guys, especially Chris, is great for breaking your game. He'll find every friggin' loophole in it.
That's good.
But I'll take it to them, and at the end of the night, okay, that part worked and that part worked. This part sucked and you guys got bored there. Now I'm going back to do it again.
Yeah, and that's the idea about failing faster, right? Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to put your brainchild in front of other people to get really critically analyzed and played through, because that's the only way it's going to become better. When you have biases in your own design process, you're going to not find them if you just keep looking at it. It has to go in front of a jury, really, of people who know
And I'm
what
sure your listeners have been hanging with bated breath about, like, you said MVP, but what's the P stand for?
geez,
Which leads us right back to this.
We didn't finish
The
that.
P stands for persistence. And there's, if you want to be a game designer and try to get a game published, whoa, wow, you need persistence.
Yeah.
So it's just, and that ego, a positive spirit of like not being so depressed getting a rejection. Like a rejection, it sucks. The rejections that suck are the ones that say no thanks, and that's it. But we were fortunate; we've got a bunch of rejections where they give us a paragraph or two of like, this is why we're not choosing it.
That's always helpful.
It's so helpful. Then it gives us a choice of like, is that just that publisher? They want that and it doesn't fit, and we'll keep the game as is and send it to somebody else, or do we really need to look at this and change it again?
And definitely be persistent when you're communicating with the publisher, because if they do send that letter back that says no, or that email back that says no, sorry, we don't want it, be persistent and ask them why. Not in a accusatorial, is that a word? Not accusing them of anything. Yeah, but just asking them, okay, so what would make this game better for you? What would make this game a game that you would want to see? And if I made those changes, would you want to see it again?
Yeah, that's key.
Or, if they said the game was good, but it's just not for them, or they don't have room in their lineup, or they've already got a game coming like that they've signed already, or the same theme, who else do you think would like this type of game?
We've had a bunch of, especially the biggest ones is when it's in Europe. The publishers in Europe, it's so great when they say it's not great, it's not for us. And then we do this kind of conversation, and they say, yeah, I can send it over to this other publisher because it's just down the street, or it's an easy mail for them. For us to mail to Germany, it takes a long time, and it's very expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even a small card game.
Yeah. So that's happened to us a few times where they've been very nice in sharing with each other. The board game community and publishers and everything are a nice, tight-knit community. Everybody knows each other. It's great because they all go to the same conventions. They all see each other. So it's pretty friendly.
So all my rules are very, very precise, but very difficult to digest if you're not a lawyer or a robot or a combination thereof. So
it goes back and forth. That's another benefit of actually having two people design a game, is it goes back and forth, because I'm like, I don't understand what you meant here. So I kind of tweak it up. I'm like, this is it should be like this. And then he goes back to him and he's like, I don't get that part. I get this now. And so through that, it's almost like iterating on rules, really. We go back and forth. And
so sometimes two heads are better than one.
It is.
And we actually have a third head. Josh, one of our compatriots for Belfort, Josh Capel, who designs. Well, he designed Wasabi, and he does a lot of artwork for games.
Wasabi.
Yes, he does a lot of games like what other artwork did he do? Belfort, Endeavor. Oh, New Amsterdam. Sorry, that's what I meant. Kings of Air and Steam. So he's done tons of artwork. But what he really does better than that, and he's a great artist, is he takes rules, and as a value add for the publishers, he'll go through them and reword them and format them and make sure he understands it so he can graphically display it.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, he took our rules that were written by a robotic lawyer, i.e. me, and made them into something that a human being could digest easily. And it didn't help that Seth, who was a game developer for Belfort, not a robotic lawyer, but he's an engineer, which is pretty much exactly the same. So he got my rules, but Josh took it and made it so much more better, much more accessible and digestible.
So I'm going to take you through. So I my part-time, I teach board game design to video game design students. And they go through...
No, sir, you teach analog game design?
Analog game design to video game designers. And so I'm going to take you through the definitive order that rules should be presented in. There's ways that
you guys already know my checklist. Now here's the professional designer. Let's just see how they stack up. Because they've heard me do this over and over again.
Perfect. So obviously there's exceptions to rules, but this is the preferred way, and this follows it perfectly. And we didn't even tell them to do it this way.
And we say the preferred way, we mean our preferred way.
Yeah, I would say even in the industry.
Yeah, I mean definitely.
Okay, optional one is flavor. You can have flavor at the beginning. That's nice, cool. Then you have goal. People need to know, what am I doing and why am I doing it? That's important.
Yep.
Then the next thing you need to do is components. People need to know what thing. This helps to make sure they have all the pieces, but then it helps give them a little bit of a nomenclature. It's like, oh, these are gnomes. Oh, this is what this is. Sometimes you're like, the heck's a provost? Where's the provost?
Instead of waiting till the end of the book.
Move the provost. What does that mean?
And what's a province?
Yeah, exactly. So this is all the components. There's many pages for this, but it goes through every single thing. Okay. Then the next thing is game setup. Obviously, you need this before you start anything. You need to understand how it's set up. I love how Josh did it, because he not only here's the list, but there's graphics, and he labeled it. Here's A. and this is what A is. Here's B. Here's what B is. And then not only that, but he said, here's the main playing area here, and then here in front of each player, this is what it should look like. Super. That's so great. It's like very clear with the pictures. This needs to look like this in front of me before I start the game.
Yeah, and another neat thing that Josh did with our suggestions, of course, was help to make the player aid so that it tells everything on it exactly how it should start. This is the start.
It's got a small little numbers.
This many pieces here, this many pieces
Player
here.
aids are always helpful.
Yeah.
You don't have to look in the rules to figure out what to do to start.
Oh, in fact, that's a pro tip number 2 is don't bother writing rules until you're all done. Just make player aids to start.
Yeah. Cool.
Easier to teach.
Step 3, a lot of people forget this step. I like this step, is a turn overview. Turn overview. This is what's going to happen in a turn. All these 5 things, for example.
The very high level.
Just high level, so I get, I place workers, then I do this, and then, okay, I get it. It gives you context of what's going to happen. Then the next step is turn details. So now I take each of these 5 things and give it a section. Boom, 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 boom. Go through each one. And then that's many pages in Belfort's example. And yeah, we're still going. And then pretty much you end with end game. How does the game end? You're going to restate the goal that you started at the beginning. And how do you get points and who wins? Another thing that's possible afterwards, if necessary, is appendix. If you need any appendices, you put them at the end.
Yeah, that's it. That's how we write rules.
Do that. It makes it so much easier.
See the checklist there?
Very
Pretty
well
much
structured. Yeah.
point for point, everything that I've told you guys for like the last 5 years.
Yeah. It just, as a human, just try, as a human.
not as a non-human?
Yes.
Or a kid.
Just try. Okay, not as a kid. We've all played games where no one's taught us and we had to read the rules. Whatever. You bought a game and you're trying to read it. And it's hard. And it's very hard to do because it's like you're going back and forth, you're trying to figure it out. So it should be apparent that that's the hurdle. That's the investment, and Sen talked about this earlier, about what everyone needs to do. Video games is very minimal investment besides financial. You just start playing and it teaches you as you play usually. This way. Oh, okay, cool. But board games, this is a big hurdle to get people to play board games.
Yeah. So pro tip number 3, videotape yourself teaching people how to play the game. Use that as a script to write your rules. It can help.
If you're a good explainer, because some people explain out of order too. So that's another skill that's needed.
There's a lot of skills that are needed.
Because you need that verbal rule explaining skill when you're face to face with a publisher and you're trying to teach them your game.
Yeah.
If you're bad at explaining games, that's not good.
It's another reason why
you have to
partners are
practice
good.
that.
It doesn't help to start explaining components when you don't even know what you're doing in the overall
So
game.
pro tip number 4, if you're planning to go pitch to publishers your game, you should be very well versed in your game, obviously, in explaining and practice that. But if you're not there yet, rewind a lot. You should be the person to explain rules at your game nights. You should volunteer. You should be the one to read the rules, and you should practice explaining rules
for all sorts of games,
so that you understand that when people interrupt you and ask questions, well, why do I need this then? That means they don't get the context. Like, why do I have this? And then you'll find out what is needed in what order. For example, the order I just said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and definitely take a look at lots and lots of rule books. There are some really bad ones out there. And there's
Fantasy Flight.
and there are some excellent ones out there.
I think there's some BGG lists on good rule books.
Definitely people vote for the ones that they like best on BGG. But the ones that I find actually really helpful are Aaliyah. And the reason why Aaliyah rules are good is because Aaliyah is owned by Ravensburger, and Ravensburger makes kids games, so they know how to teach games to kids. And they always have nice sidebars with examples that are really digested well, and little succinct bits of information. The wall of text next to it describes all your edge cases, but exactly what's happening is in this little blurb in the sidebar.
No, it was a really good one recently. It was Legends of Andor.
Oh yeah, because it almost like it's a walkthrough.
It's a walkthrough. Did you play that? You play that game, Legends of Andor?
Not.
So
Not yet.
Well,
There's just so many games.
I know,
There's so many games out
but
there.
the cool thing is you start to play the game almost immediately because it's like, okay, do this setup. Okay, boom, boom. Now start playing. You're like, what? I don't even know what I'm doing. And they designed 4 or 5 cards that come up as event cards, and on them are the rules. Okay, so do this and then flip this. And it tells you what to do as you're playing the first round as a tutorial. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a neat
That's a
one.
neat new way. I've never seen that
Yeah.
before.
Other rules that are good are like
It's
Haba
almost
games.
like
so
the
another,
video game where you're teaching you as you're playing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so cool.
yeah, Haba Games, another children's game company. So a lot of the children's games rules are really well done because they are intended to teach rules to non-gamers, either kids or parents of kids. And that's really kind of what you have to do. You can't assume that everybody knows what draft a card means. Or area majority, or any of the buzzwords that we use in our everyday language as game designers.
And when in doubt, add pictures and add examples.
Yeah, you can never have too many unless the publisher says they're running out of paper or ink or something.
So I got one for you that's completely out of left field. What is your favorite game and why?
That we designed?
No, just of games in general.
Man.
Or just one of your favorite.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
narrow it down to one might be hard.
It's tough because I like El Grande a lot and I like Entdecker a lot. I love tile laying games, so Entdecker just has a nice feel. It's got a wacky end game to it, unless you play the original. But I really like how that one feels. Domain is nice. I like area enclosure. That's really fun. And new game is I really like. I'm every time I play I really like is Amerigo.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, he gave it to me. It's perfect. That's so.
I find I prefer Loanhurst over Domain. Have you heard?
I know that's the original, and I heard about what the differences are, and I really want to try. And I could have got it.
Didn't you ever
I
play
played
with
both.
me?
I kind of like both of them. It's just
I agree with
differences,
you. I like
but-
Loanhurst better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't ever played it before, and I like Domain. But
And the colors are better.
Well, Domain's a better presentation.
Yeah.
Loanhurst
Right.
is, I think, better mechanically.
Yeah.
Cool. That's wild.
So I was going to ask you maybe what your style of games are that you liked, and everything. Craig asked you what kind of game or specifics about which games you like, but then you started talking about the tile laying games and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So yeah, you kind of answered what I was about to ask.
I don't know why I like tiling. It's
You like
very
exploring.
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 Yeah.
Jay's favorite things in the world, pretty much, are like
Besides
Indiana.
you.
Yeah, besides me, are like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I like it.
So he likes the exploring part.
Explorings good.
Some of my favorites are Basari. Have you ever played Basari?
With 3 players only.
With 3 players only, never with 4.
Yeah.
I like near perfect information because I'm really computational, so I can
He's
figure
an
out
efficient
exactly.
engine man.
I can figure out exactly what I have to do.
Lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. I like Tishu because I like partner
Yes.
games. Because when I do poorly,
Yeah.
I can
I
blame
like
Jay.
Yep.
And I like the idea of passing cards. I love passing cards between people.
Mhm.
What else do I like? I like lots of games, but for different reasons, right? So
Walled City's a really good game.
Walled City is an awesome game. Walled City, that's coming out in, I believe,
October.
4th quarter of
Yeah.
2014.
Oh, it's not even out yet.
No,
No,
it's great.
is quite possibly the best non-Jay and Sen game designed by a member of the Game Artisans of Canada.
Yeah, it's really good.
One of the cool things that has happened to Jay and I over our career is that we've become members of what's called the Games Artisans of Canada, which is a group of Canadian game designers, including several published, several soon-to-be published, and several non-published game designers.
In chapters all across Canada.
Yeah, and we play test each other's stuff. We read each other's rules when
We
we're
got
talking
a forum
about
where
rules.
we chat with each other. We introduce each other to publishers. We have different levels. We have a friend level, and we have that mostly for, I don't know, who's like a Panda's a friend, Panda
yeah.
Publishing, manufacturing.
People who are interested in what we do.
Yeah, I guess.
But basically don't need to know anything about design or don't have a goal of learning how
Friend
to
level
design.
has only minimal access to their forums, just like our general discussion type stuff. There's obviously lots of hidden stuff to a lot of different things. Then we have a journeyman. If you want to become a member, you have to go through a journeyman process in which you get a mentor in your local chapter, and you go through your iterative design process of designing your game. And the goal is to get your game to a gamma state. If you understand the levels of of a game design, gamma, so it's almost publisher ready kind of level, as deemed by your chapter and one other chapter.
Yeah, so
Which
it
means it
goes
has to
through
get
a
blind
lot
play
of vetting.
tested. And then if everyone gives thumbs up, boom, you become an artisan, which means you can say that to publishers and put it on business cards. You can put it on your rules when you submit them, and more of the forum opens up. So now you get to see stuff like contract negotiating talks and what should I say? Is this good contract and all this kind of information. And we've had publishers now. We're getting to a state where we're getting 3 or 4 different publishers are coming to the GAC, we call it GAC, Game Artisans of Canada, saying, hey, we're looking for card games. Do you guys have anything? You guys as
and we'll send out
organization?
an organization-wide call out for card games.
For example. That's awesome. Like that, we're getting recognized as a quality production crew across Canada of games. It's awesome.
Yeah.
This is a bunch of games from the Game Artisans of Canada. One or another of them have been involved in all of these.
Absolutely.
So these are ones that you have probably seen. I know I've played 4 or 5 of these.
Wasabi.
Played that done very well.
That's from Josh Capel, who did the art for Belfort. He designed this game.
I did the art.
Yeah,
I
Blueprints.
like Blueprints. Blueprints is a great, simple game. It doesn't take long to play. The rules are really well done.
Yeah,
That's an awesome game. That's by Yves Tourigny.
Yeah, Matt Tolman did Undermining, and this is with art from Gavin Brown, who did art for Train of Thought.
And art and design on Jab.
Yeah, he designed that game.
I played that one as well.
Quarantine by Mark Klassen. You might have seen that one around.
Well, that's also by the way, Mercury is a nice Canadian
Yeah,
publisher.
they're a Canadian publisher. too.
Oh,
So
there we go.
we got Rob Bartel did 2x2, a really fun ARC game, as well as he's got these new famous card games. They're all sports games that use 9 or 10 cards.
I think 9.
And so
Thanks, Daryl.
there's some really great reviews online for those. Those are great.
This is a self-published game by Roberta Taylor. She's won the Canadian Game of the Year
For
award for Octopus Garden, which we don't have here right now, but this is her self-published title. Oh, we have a guest. This is Sean Ross's
The
game.
audience found this.
Yeah,
This is
Sean's. This is basically, I think,
T-sheet for 2 to 3 players.
T-shoot for 2 to 3 player, but it's
Great
one of
games.
the highest ranked climbing games other than T-shoot.
Yep.
Right. And that was his goal, was to do almost as well as T-shoot. This is Frank and I from Al Leduc. It's a kind of a
Quick reaction.
dice game.
Yeah. And Northwest Passage Expedition by Yves again, the guy who did Blueprints.
It's like tile exploring.
It is.
It is.
And the nice thing about the games from the Game Artisans, other than you'd be supporting Canadian designers, is that we actually collaborate together. A lot of the stuff here was done before most of us were members, but we've all play tested several versions of this, helped each other with finding publishers. Jay actually is pretty much responsible for this one getting published in some way.
Yeah.
Because of meeting certain people at certain conventions, Jay was able to hand off Quarantine to this publisher who eventually signed it. So it's definitely a benefit to have more people in your corner. We're so vested in the success of our colleagues that we'll go out of our way to play test their games, pitch their games to other publishers, and point people out. Like say, oh, you know what? I know you don't like our thing, but I have a friend who has a game that would be perfect for your company. So,
I like cooperation, exchange
yeah.
ideas.
Yeah, and we
brainstorming.
co-design, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't always just design with Jay. We have a game together with Josh. Jay and I and Josh.
The look
I
on his
know.
face.
Trader. Are you the trader?
Are you cheating on him?
Yeah. And this
Just
is
revealed Cylon right here on the show.
Exactly. So, anyways, yeah, this is not all of the Game Artisan stuff, but it's a good amount. We have more. The journeyman process is really critical in order for the game designers to get to that state when a game can be blind play tested, so without them at the table. And if it's one area that we all fail at, and not fail in a good way, and that we don't do as much as we should, it's blind play test. Because it takes a lot of effort to send prototypes, to make multiple prototypes, send them out to
And
different
often
people.
the people you blind play test usually are the people that have already played the game 14 times. So now we don't have anybody to blind play test.
Mhm.
But now with Game Artisans, we have people to blind play test.
Yeah.
We just have to ship it.
Yeah.
Or print and play if it's small enough. We can print and play.
Or, if you know how to use Vassal, you can make a Vassal module for it. The great thing about it is that because we're all separated geographically but connected through the net, we might know something about the game enough to be interested in it, but we've never played it. And so we can truly be blind to how the game actually works.
Which is so valuable because you can imagine a publisher is going to be blind playtesting your game when you send it to them out of the blue, right?
Mhm.
And so why not have somebody else do that first to find out the 47 mistakes in your rule book that they don't
Because
understand?
there's going to be
'Cause then
47 games.
Here's what happened to us. We sent a game to a publisher. They brought it back and it got pretty good marks. It was like it was something like it got an average of 7. This publisher did a thing where they had averages or whatever, and they say 7.5 is what we need to make continue interest from us, and it got like a 7. It was like, oh. So anyways, they gave us the feedback. Well, all the playtesters were like, oh, cool, let's see the feedback. We're reading, like, okay. One was like, too much memory. I'm like, oh, and we went, what?
Oh, right, this one. I don't even remember it.
I'm like, I'm trying to think, like, memory, what do you mean memory? I'm trying to think. And I'm like, oh, it just hit me. I'm like, oh, when they were taking cards, they were putting them face down. Oh, no, you're not supposed to put it face down. We went through the rules. Once, it does mention face up once in a wall of text.
Yeah.
And like, so because of our rules weren't great, that probably would have taken the game to 7.5 if they didn't, because there is no memory in that game. So we're like, and they don't want to see it again because like, no, that's fine. But like if they saw it, they got a 7. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap it up here. Thanks to Jay and Sen for talking with us today. And this is the whole interview. I know it's long, so glad you watched it all. And stay tuned. Coming up later in the summer, we'll have another show as soon as we can get that one together for you. We'll see you later, and thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Edition. Yeah, sure, we'll do that, yeah. Anybody else?
All right.
Hello and welcome to the Gamers Table. Yeah, I haven't done this in a while.
I need your help. My brother. He's missing.
Nah, so tell it to the cops, dollface.
I have nowhere else to go.
So tell me about your brother.
He works at the university, doing research for several of the professors. Internet searches for strange happenings. Things of that sort.
Strange happenings? What kind of strange happenings?
He's heading to the apartment. Should I stop him?
What the hell is this thing?
Don't make me come back down here again, Carmichael. You need to back off.
Look, Rach, I've got a case. And I need your help. I'm being tailed by lurking strangers and warned off the case by angry cops.
He contacted her, just like you said he would.
Very well. Perhaps we should lend Mr. Carmichael some assistance ourselves.